notification that things being recorded. All right, everybody, well, welcome to tonight's magic show. I recognize many faces, so the novelty of me calling it a magic show, you know what, you just got to smile because it really doesn't get any funnier than that, right? So just humor me and that, nod your head, because, you know, workshops and webinars are just boring. So we do magic shows because, you know, this is where magic happens, right? So to make sure that you're in the, you know, the right spot, let's again get some of the magic buttons going here. And if you are intending to come to the Die Hard Patients Aren't Found, They're Made, you should give yourself a standing ovation. Well done. You have actually arrived at the right spot, right? So again, for those that don't know me, my name is Dr. Tom Preston, founder and head coach of Full Circle Coaching Consulting. And at Full Circle, we've had a four-pillared model. It's based upon the four legs of a table: vision for your life and your business, and how that comes from the most authentic, deepest parts of you. Whatever the focus blocks are is the second pillar or the second leg of the table. What's in the way of that vision expressing itself, both internally in terms of limiting beliefs, fears, undeveloped skill sets, undeveloped communication pathways, right through to just business skills and savvy leadership that hasn't been developed yet. The systems that will support that vision, everything from marketing to back-end systems, to education systems, to communication systems, to finance systems, to if you have systems, you have leverage, because the acronym SYSTEM stands for saving you significant time, energy, and money. And it really does, you guys, right? Most entrepreneurs are very self-driven, self-actualized, and that's incredible. But it'll only take you so far, and you just keep banging your head on, you know, trying to do it all yourself, right? So definitely putting some systems in place is key. And the acronym for team, together, everyone achieves more, is really true, because it's also a great place to not only just have more fun and work, you know, because you're working with other humans, but also because you've also got tremendous leverage in the ability to delegate and get people to help fulfill the mission, basically, right? So that's our model. I created that model 26 years ago when I started coaching, when people started asking me to help them do what I'd done, which was take 10, 12 weeks of holidays a year, working about 25 hours a week, making a really nice take-home six-figure income. And people said, how the hell do you do that? And so I backed into the world of coach consulting 26 years ago. And I said, well, I should figure out how I did that. And so through reflection, I found that model. And here we are 26 years later, have not changed the model because I haven't found a better one. What's a really exciting tool that we've developed is the Full Circle Roadmap. And this is probably not going to look that big if you're on your phone, so I apologize. If you're on your laptop or on your desktop, it'll probably look better. But underneath the categories of vision, focus, systems, and team, we have pegged down, after all these years, what are the main movers, the main drivers, the main things that will give people the ability to move forward on their vision and their focus. And so there's three sort of levels to this, you guys, right? You can imagine this as rungs on a ladder. And the reason we called it a roadmap is because literally, if you follow the clues, you will get to, you know, the promised land, or whatever it is you want your ideal authentic business to look like, right? So again, this is literally a way for people to know what to work on, when and where, to lead you to the promised land. It's been an absolute game changer, in my opinion, after all these years of coaching. And people working on the clarity level, sort of this bottom rung of the ladder, they're usually working and generating 5 to 20K take home a month. There's always exceptions to rules, but people that got relative mastery of all of these 12 issues and things and capabilities and skill sets and so on at the clarity level, then advance into the manifestation level, which now you're moving into the 20 to 40K take home per month. And there's a whole new group of things to focus on and work on that are all quite doable. Just takes some energy and some coaching. And the final level is the legacy level, which is, you know, people in this level are bringing in the 40K plus range, plus many times, where they're dealing with the legacy and succession planning and all that kind of stuff. So I'm hopelessly proud of this. It took a lot of work to create. Only 25 years. Only took 25 years, but you know what the heck? It's pretty cool. And yeah, thanks, Dode. I know it's pretty amazing tool. Thanks for your feedback. So again, what is it that ultimate goal is here, you guys, is to help you grow as a human being and a business professional, which allows you to, very common consequence, side effect, outcome of that, surprisingly, when you grow as a human and as a business person, you have the opportunity to serve humanity at a higher level, make more money as a byproduct, while taking more time off so that you can enjoy the quality of life that you so rightfully deserve. So, and infomercial on Full Circle and who we are. But for those of you that don't know, I think it's valuable that you understand who you're spending time with, because I value time more than anything in life. And if you're going to invest some time with me, I want you to know, who you're here with and what it is that we stand for. So those are some of the things that we stand for. So let's get into this. Diehard patients aren't found, they are made. Okay. The most common nomenclature, the most common narrative that I hear in the profession these days around, diehard patients. And again, let's get clear who a diehard is, right? I would love to see in the chat, somebody just throw in some names of some people, right? Just the first names, please, right? Do you have, let's ask the first question in the chat. Do you have diehards, yes or no? Just put yes or no. Do you have diehards? Because I want to define what a diehard patient is. Jonathan says yes. Anybody else? Yes. Dan and Robin have yes. Holly says yes. There's a few people here. Lindsay says yes. There's a few people here are saying yes, right? So my definition of diehard is somebody who actually listens what you tell them, and when you help them understand what health is, what in this case chiropractic can do for them, they actually get it. And as a result of that, they actually follow through on not only just their treatment protocol, their treatment plan, but they follow through long-term. These are the people in my practice who came on average every week, 2 weeks occasionally, some of them, right? But they were the people just there, and it didn't matter, rain, shine, whatever. They trusted if I was away on recreation time that the locum I brought in was good, they'd come. These were the people that came to events that we had. They're just the people that just make practice that much more worthwhile, right? So the illusion that people have, which I'm going to completely friggin' smash tonight, is that you find these people, and I'm calling horse hockey on that, okay? So here's what I find when I'm talking to people about practice these days. They talk about practice members, and they talk about people coming and going, and it's just like a freaking revolving door, right? There's, one new patient in on this side of the equation, and woo-hoo, just equally the person goes out the other side that was started with you 3 days ago or 3 weeks ago or 3 months ago, right? So there's no net gain in the service, in your ability to serve. And unless you're a different crowd than every other chiropractic crowd I've ever talked to, which I doubt very much, you are really about serving humanity and helping people live a higher quality life. Yes? Anybody here in the chat, please? Anybody here, that's what they're here to do? Is that a yes? Anybody? Give me a yes or an amen or what? I feel like I'm kind of, Dodie, I feel like I'm kind of on the pulpit tonight, kind of on fire. Yeah, I got
you want to stay on the pulpit, or do you need a little nudge?
What's that, Dode?
I said, do you want to stay on the pulpit, or do you need a nudge?
No, I'm good. I'm happy where I am right now. So just let me run with it, okay? If I get motor mouthing too hard, you can, definitely settle me down, okay? So yeah, so that's the revolving door. There's no net gain in fulfillment, no net gain in joy, no net gain in productivity, no net gain in revenue, no net gain in profitability, right? You're just basically revolving around the door. And this is the other frustration that I hear all the time. Patients just don't get it. And, I had the moment, the very defining moment, very early in my career, my 4th year into practice, my wife and I, what some people don't know is that when I was going to graduate from chiropractic college, I wanted to get some life experience. I had not traveled. We came from pretty, humble beginnings. Never taken a vacation in my life. Never been on an airplane actually until I graduated chiropractic college. So as I was looking to do that, I wanted some world experience. So I actually applied to get a green card to practice chiropractic in New Zealand. And there was that point, New Zealand had a population of about 3 million. There was 63 chiropractors in the country, and I was denied my green card. Not because I was a horrible person, but because chiropractic was considered a closed profession. They didn't need more than 63 chiropractors to serve 3 million people. So anyways, I decided that, I said to my wife, I said, okay, screw that. We're going to go and travel Australia, New Zealand 1 week on our terms when I don't have to work. So 4 years into practice, we took 12 weeks off, traveled to Australia, New Zealand, and had a great time. But I was in Byron's Bay, Australia, the most eastern part of the continent of Australia, which we really love that area. And I was sitting up on a bluff and I was meditating and watching the surfers, do their thing and stuff like that. And as I come out of this meditation, I just had just literally, I don't know, said it to God, said it to the universe, said it to myself, whatever. But I said, why don't they get it? Thinking practice members, why don't they get it? Right? One comes in this side, one goes out that side, out the other door, right? Just like what you said in the first slide here. And again, whether it was God herself or it was my imagination or what it was, but what I heard very clearly in the theater of my mind was, if they knew what you knew, they would do what you do. And if you're a note taker, gang, if you're a note taker, I would encourage you to write that down. If they knew what you knew, they would do what you do. That is literally the defining piece of this conversation that we're having tonight, right? Other frustration is, of course, you got them, the revolving door and people coming through. They don't get it. You're going to end up having a very marketing dependent practice. Marketing dependent practices, none of this is a moral discussion, you guys, right? So don't go down that path. But marketing dependent practices are very energetic, time and money heavy. Okay. I was on the coaching program that I'm a student at, as I mentioned earlier in the call. I just did a 12-hour intensive with them, which equated into 3 15-hour days back to back to back, which is long for me. I don't love doing 15-hour days, but anyways, that's my commitment to the growth and well-being of those people. Anyways, and there was a woman on there who runs several large enterprises. Wow, somebody has got some dogs in the background. Let's see if we can mute that. If you guys could just mute your background, that would be fantastic, because it's a little noisy right now with a barking dog.
Put me as co-host.
Let's see if we can help out here, Dode.
If you want to put me as co-host, I can't do anything yet.
You can't do anything yet, eh? Okay, well, you know what? It sounds like it's got quieter, but I can see if I can go and find you and do that. Anyways, this woman's got multiple streams of income and stuff. She's going to do about 85 million this year. And she does no marketing, zero marketing, none at all. It's all based upon, not in the chiropractic industry, in a completely different industry, but all of it's through organic means. And she is not marketing dependent, because that practice was an expensive, practice to run, right? So business to run, I guess is maybe a better way to say that. So anyways, marketing dependence, not my cup of tea. Because the biggest fear we all have is what, gang? What's the fear? Besides, me getting back on the pulpit, the biggest fear is that you're going to stay stuck on a plateau and you're never going to change, and you're going to put energy, time, and money towards it, and things aren't going to grow. So there's a better way. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, right? You want people that are going to stay, pay, and refer, right? Is that not the big idea of what it is you would love to have in your practice? Because when people stay, pay, and refer, guess what? You get to serve humanity at a higher level. You get to, birds of a feather tend to flock together. They tend to refer in people just like them, who you enjoy interacting and working with and spending time with. And, financially, it's a nice byproduct to be able to generate more revenue and more profit, right? And you can do that without heavy emphasis on marketing, is really what I want to get across here. And the real key to this whole process, you guys, I already said it, if they knew what you knew, they would do what you do. It's all about education, and simple, effective education, not long, complex, drawn out things. A story from early in my career, true confessions of a recovering talkaholic, okay? Early in my career, before I really understood the simple education idea, I was doing a report of findings with a lady, a very bright school teacher type person, or academic in some form, maybe university level. And I was going through neurofacilitation and Selye's research and Kiyosato's research and all of this kind of stuff. And I was trying to give the poor woman a PhD in friggin' neurology. And I swear, with absolute no exaggeration, you guys, somewhere around the 22 to 26 minute mark, she had, I think, a petit mal seizure. Okay, because her eyes kind of fluttered a little bit, they kind of rolled back in her head and kind of danced a little bit, and she was definitely like not present. Okay, so that's the worst I've ever seen or I've even heard. Giving somebody a petit mal seizure because you're like not doing simple education is not recommended. Let's just say that. Okay, so simple education is really what I'm going to encourage here. Okay, because with you put those things all together, you are going to get practice growth, right? So let me tell you a story about one of our clients who did this, okay? And I'll give you the pre-story, the before story, right? There's new patients, basically, were just booked week to week, right? You look in the appointment book next week, there was nobody there. It was just week to week. And so there was a certain amount of anxiety and dependence on that, and some stress of not knowing where the next new client was going to come from. By the way, in the chat, has anybody ever in the career ever had some stress with not knowing where the next new client's going to come from? Throw it in the chat. Give me some yeses if that's part of you. I want to know if your experience in practice has been like mine. Anybody have that experience where you don't know where the next new client's going to come from at some phase in your career? Anybody else have that experience? Let me just see what shows up in the chat. I'm going to pause for a moment here, have a sip of water. Dan and Robin, not really. That's awesome. Sylvia says, yeah, that's happened for sure. Okay, definitely some yeses there and some absolutelys. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so that this person definitely found it stressful. Let's be clear. Revenue was definitely stuck in a rut, right? It definitely not happening or growing on that front. And there was a lot of negative self-talk for this person, because it's like, you know what? Went to university all this time. I have this great education. What the hell is going on? Why can't I figure this out? You know, why am I, do you guys know who I'm talking about? Anybody, right? You know who I'm talking about? Just that voice in the back of your head that says, hey, dummy, why can't you figure this out? What's wrong with you? Because what happens when that happens, you guys, when that negative self-talk starts up, is your confidence starts to go downhill. When your confidence goes downhill in one part of life, it goes downhill in every part of life. And all of a sudden it becomes a snowball, a negative snowball, because 93% of communication is nonverbal, which is basically what's behind the words, not the actual words you're saying. Your confidence goes downhill, your certainty goes downhill. You are not communicating at the same level, you're not educating at the same level, and people aren't basically buying what you're selling, right? So this was definitely a negative snowball that I'm talking about here with this particular person, okay? What happened though is this person got the big idea, so to speak, and said, you know what? I think what I really need to do is get better at educating, rather than figuring out the next new shiny marketing toy to buy or to invest in, or trying to figure out how to give away free chicken dinners with every new patient exam or whatever. That's some crap I've seen in the profession over the years. Pardon my judgment. And as a result of that, better educated practice members created more internal referrals. That's the big hidden secret, you guys, right? When you're educating your practice members better, they're going to get better educated, duh. But as a result of that, they're going to understand better, and they're going to understand how and when to refer their friends and family in. And so you get a lot of more internal referrals. I will take an internal referral over 4 external referrals anytime, because that's going to be a better practice member, somebody I enjoy working with even more, because birds of a feather flock together, as I've already stated, okay? This person actually went to a 4-week waiting list for new clients, right? That was where it seemed to peak out. People wouldn't seem to wait more than 4 weeks because whether they thought they got better, or they went and found somebody else, or they died, or who knows whatever happened to them. But 4 weeks seemed to be the thing. But for years and years and years, it was a 4-week waiting list for new practice members. And that guy is this guy. It's that guy. That picture right there, that's this guy. That's my story, you guys, right? I've been in practice as of this recording more than 30 years. And this was back very early in my career that I learned some of this stuff. And of course have adapted it and expanded upon it over the years. But that's really the story of my process in practice. All right, there are 5 keys, you guys, to this education process we're going to talk about tonight, all right? We're going to talk about volume, and the definition of volume, and why people are focusing in the wrong place. What are some of the keys to education, how you shape people, how you never quit. And we're very specific, we're going to focus on the intake visit and some of the keys there. There's many keys to the intake visit, which we teach our clients, but so we don't have time to go through them all tonight, but definitely we're going to have time to go through at least 1, maybe 2 of them. So let's go in and have some dialogue about this. The classic formula in service-based industries, obviously chiropractic being one of those, is volume of service is a byproduct of or equal to the numbers of new clients multiplied by your PVA, or how long. Basically PVA, another interpretation of PVA is how long do they stay. So again, really simply, how many new people show up in your business and how long do they stay. If you multiply those two factors together, you're going to find out what your volume is going to be. For years, the chiropractic speaker circuit, so to speak, and the practice management gurus want you to focus on the new patients all the time. And all of these new fancy, shiny things, whatever, for how to market and how to spend money and so on. And I'm not suggesting that there isn't some value to that. I want to go on record as saying there's definitely value in investing time, energy, and money in external marketing. But to do that in the vacuum of not focusing on the education process that would allow people to really understand why they're there, what they're learning, right? And let's even go back to the Latin word for doctor, for heaven's sakes, right? I mean, it basically equates to teacher. So it's part of our mandate as docs to be able to teach and to help people understand. And when you help people see the value, not through trickery or some bullshit like that, you guys, but through actually seeing the value because you're educating them clearly, concisely, and simply. Let me say that again and lean into the camera. Simply, not convolutedly, complexly. They get the big idea, so to speak, and the probability, no guarantees, the probability that they're going to stay longer for the right reasons is higher. And I'll show you some a little bit of math later on that hopefully will be old hat for many of you, but for some of you will be like, gaga, wow, right? So again, in the chat, I'm seeing some, yeah, that's right. And that's amazing. Right, for sure it is. Okay. Educate, 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 educate. When do you start educating? You start educating before they ever show up, right? Looking at the quality of the materials on your website, on your social media posts. Are you educating your community about what it is that you know to be true about health, well-being, and the function of the nervous system? Right? Are you doing that? Because that pre-education pre-qualifies them before they ever even call your office. But then once they call your office, that education process should continue right away. And I'll give you a little tidbit. If you're a note taker, you haven't got this one mastered in your practice, I would encourage you to do this. Presuming that you don't hate children, okay? Or you think that children have different spines and nerve systems or some weird fictional idea like that, right? But one of the things that our team members were trained to do at the front desk, if they were taking an inbound call, is they would ask, say, is this appointment for you or for your or for your family? Right? Immediately planting a seed of education that we see families in this practice. And my practice was very much a hands-on practice, very much a family wellness style practice. 30 to 35% of my practice were kids under the age of 12. We watched kids grow up in the practice. We would, see them go through university. I was even in practice long enough to see a few people get married and start having kids, which was just like one of the great joys of my life and my career, right? So that education process starts literally before they ever show up in your office, right? It starts literally on first phone call, or if they're doing intake forms off your website or something like that, there's ways to start educating them, to your style of practice and your values and your philosophy, right from the get-go. And when does education stop? I'd love to see the answers in the chat. How many months or years should you educate, you guys? When does it stop? I want to see some ideas in the chat here, please. I'm going to take a little sip of water. Let's just see. Somebody saying, Jonathan's saying, never, 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 never. Never stops, Joe says. Dodie says never. Dan and Robin say it never stops. Mark says for life. Yes, 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 yes. I agree with you. It never stops. I've told the Betty story quite often, you guys, but it bears repeating at this moment in time. Betty was an older lady, was in our practice 14 years, if I remember the story correctly. And as per our protocol, she missed her appointment. And so I don't think she's ever missed an appointment. Came every 2 weeks like clockwork, 14 years. And she didn't show up one time. So the front desk called, couldn't get a hold of her. After 3 calls, our system was back to the doc to do follow-up. I finally got a hold of Betty. And I was concerned that she'd fallen and couldn't get up or something because she was an elderly woman. And I said, oh, Betty, it's Dr. Tom. So nice to hear from you. Are you well? She goes, yes, I'm very well, Dr. Tom. So nice to hear from you. And I said, well, you missed your appointment the other day. I was concerned. The whole staff was concerned. They tried to call you. They couldn't reach you. Got really worried. I'm just glad that we could reach you. She goes, oh, no, she laughed. She goes, I'm fine, but thanks for your concern. And I said, well, now that I got you, I said, I can put you back up to the front desk and we get that appointment rebooked. And she goes, oh no, Dr. Tom, that's fine. I said, I'm sorry, what, Betty? She goes, oh, Dr. Tom, I love you. I love your staff. She goes, but I'm done. And I said, I'm sorry, you're what? She goes, I'm done. I'm done with chiropractic. But thank you so much. It's been so great. And she hung the phone up. And I'm like, it was like I was dumbfounded after 14 years. Kind of figured that maybe, Betty understood chiropractic at least as well as I did. And I don't ever plan on not being checked chiropractically speaking, at least on a weekly basis throughout my entire life. So anyways, I went back and I checked. And guess what? Betty had not had a progress review in 3 years. Betty's structured table talk had ended long ago. And I will promise you this, you guys, and this might hurt a little bit, particularly for some of you more veteran practitioners, but remember this. Practice members never quit on you. You quit on them. Just let that sink in, you guys. There's a little pearl for you. Practice members never quit you. You quit them. And the biggest thing you quit on is you quit on education. You stop educating. I stopped educating Betty. I owed Betty an apology because it was my fault that she stopped, because you never, ever, 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 ever stop educating, right? Now, the other piece here, you guys, is really this is about shaping and molding them into exactly whatever your philosophy, your style of practice is, okay? And my practice, because I know myself a lot better than I know you guys, even though I know some of you very well, my practice was, again, family wellness centered. It was my highest core value currently, wasn't at that time, it was on the list, but it wasn't the highest, was exploring or optimizing human potential, human expression, right? So my entire purpose as a chiropractor, which by the way, I would encourage you strongly to be able to take why you do what you do as your purpose, so to speak, as a chiropractor, and be able to say it in one concise sentence. If you can't do that, I challenge you, encourage you to play with wording, wordsmithing until you can. Because my purpose as a chiropractor was the detection and release of subluxations for the enhancement of human potential. Very, very concise, right? Very concise, very clear. I'm at a dinner party. Somebody says, what do you do? I'm a chiropractor. What do chiropractors do? Well, we detect and release subluxation with enhancement of human potential. What the hell's a subluxation? And now you have a dialogue going, right? So that was my purpose. It might not be yours, but that was my purpose. And so I wanted to mold people and shape people into that and help them understand why their potential was connected to their health, their well-being, and particularly the function of their nerve system. And so that molding process, that shaping process allowed me to build the practice of my dreams, right? Which at one point was relatively high volume. I mean, we crested 600 a week for a while. We were in the 500s for years and years. But my real sweet spot, you guys, was in kind of the high 2s to low 3s in terms of volume per week. That was my real sweet spot. That allowed me to live a high quality life, make a nice income, take my 10 to 12 weeks of holidays, and do all of that kind of stuff. My PVA was part of one of my stats. I used to record and track, and I basically stopped doing it when it went well over 100. It was over 200 for a little while, but in the high 100s, it's like, whether it's 130 or 190, it's not that relevant anymore. People tended to come, stay, pay, refer for a lifetime, right? And the greatest compliment I got as a chiropractor, you guys, besides the full circle story of my daughter, Jayla, who's a chiropractor, I'm very proud of that, who is working in the practice of a young man who found health and purpose in life and found chiropractic by being a practice member in my office when he was a young boy. That's one of the things I'm very proud of. But the other thing is when I go to my old office to get adjusted, which has now been 20 years since I transitioned out of that practice, when I go back there, I still see old practice members that I onboarded 22, 25, 30, 32 years ago. Man, that just makes my heart warm, right? Because that tells me that I helped shape them and understand through education to really get, what I wanted them to understand about, health and chiropractic, right? The other piece, we already talked about this a little earlier, but you never, ever, ever stop. You never quit. And the other piece, you guys, is this. When I used to be able to do this, and maybe it's going to change, but do in-office consulting around the world, in chiropractic offices. There was docs that were quite successful, but had got stale, okay, with respect to their education. I mean, stale. I mean, they were like rote memorization. It was like you swear they were in a trance while they were doing their thing, you guys, you know. If you can't keep it fresh and exciting and keep some novelty in the dialogue and the discussion and the education, I promise you, you're letting entropy sneak in, right? Organized systems go into the least organized state, and practice members are going to start missing. They're going to start hedging. They're not going to start, referring and so on, right? So make sure that you're keeping it fresh. Make sure you're staying up to date. Make sure you're thinking through other ways to communicate things in an even simpler but yet more profound way. Please, please, please never stop trying to be better at educating. There's literally no limit to this, because the study of communication, just as an art itself, is a lifelong pursuit. I've been studying communication for over 30 years. I know I'm a better communicator today than I was last year, way better than I was 10 years ago. And I think of the poor souls I tried to, educate 30 years ago. I actually feel sorry for them. All right. Education starts before people ever get to your office. It definitely starts with first approach, first phone call, first, forms being sent out or whatever. Okay. But I would offer that the most important visit in your office of all the visits over 30 years of care is the very first visit in the office, is the intake visit. So I definitely want to share with you some secrets that I've developed over years relative to the intake visit, because again, the intake visit in my offering is definitely one of the biggest and the most important pieces of the puzzle here. Okay. So listen, let me just pop off of this share for a minute. And I would love to just see if anybody's got in a quiet background, be willing to come off mute for a minute. What's something that you have affirmed or learned or want to emphasize more in your practice as a result of what we've done so far? Who's got something they'd love to share? Come off mute if you're in a quiet background, and let's just hear what you got to say. If not, I would love to see the chat. What's been affirmed? What's been learned or emphasized tonight?
Don't let education get stale.
Ooh, okay. Good piece of the puzzle, Dode, for sure. We've got some really, really highly conscious people here and stuff, right? So let's just see if there's somebody going to come off mute and share their thoughts.
Talking about the first visit, the intake visit, when I do a consult, I make sure to ask my patient, what is it that they're not able to do anymore that they want to do? So instead of looking at exam procedures and their complaints, I look at what they're not able to do anymore. Is there a sport you can't do? Are you able to lift up your kids and play with them? Get into an emotional kind of, get them to find a reason that they're there other than pain relief.
Really important piece of the puzzle. I would offer, brilliant, Jonathan. And I would offer that would be one of the secrets in the intake visit. So we'll talk, maybe that'll be the one that we'll decide to talk about. Anybody else got something here? Let's just see. Not to sleep on progress exams. Ooh, that's a really good insight, for sure that is. Okay, well, let's go onwards and upwards here. And let me get my slide thing back. Actually, what I want to do is I want to share my screen, but I actually want to show you the structure here, you guys, that I think is the best way to layer one piece on top of the other relative to this education protocol that I've been talking about. Okay, so let's just click all of the magic buttons and get my iPad to do its beautiful thing. And oh, stop that silly thing. I hate it when it does this and it doesn't want to communicate and do its job. It just frustrates me to pieces. Let's try this one more time. Come on out of here and do the screen mirroring thing. Do that. Oh boy. You know what? You hate it when you practice this thing and then it actually used to work and then it doesn't seem to want to work right now. So I apologize, you guys. Let me just try one more time on this and we'll see if we can get the technology to do what we would love it to do.
Jonathan, I feel like every time I look, you're taking a drink from that beautiful glass. I'm like, it seems endless. Or that, or I feel like I need to go get one, so I'm part of the.
Maybe you want to be a part of that experience, Dode, huh?
Mhm.
Yes. All right. Well, technology is continuing to be a small pain in my butt, so we'll give it one good old college try here. And if that doesn't do it, then this wasn't meant to happen. So
Let's put our collective energies to it.
I'm working on it.
We're all going there.
I'm sorry, say it again, Jonathan.
We're putting our collective energies into your screen sharing. It's going to work now.
That would be absolutely much appreciated and a joyous thing. So apparently it just doesn't want to, be happy right now. So I don't know why. It's such a weird thing because, I checked this earlier tonight and it was actually very happy. So I'm just going to suggest you guys that it wasn't meant to be, but you know what? I will do it with my hands. Okay, you ready? Just humor me, okay? Imagine a pyramid with 5 steps to the pyramid. Okay, so just stay with me. It would be so much sexier if I was actually, drawing this out and you could watch. But yes, Jonathan, you've got it. I've seen the hands move. Okay. At the very bottom, you guys, the very bottom of the pyramid, which is why I'm going to share some secrets about the bottom of the pyramid. The intake visit, the most important visit, in my opinion, of the entire experience they have. Here's one of the reasons why, you guys. There's novelty, there's newness, there is that unknown, there's that honeymoon phase of any new relationship, which is like, I'm meeting this new person, they seem really cool, they seem really nice, they seem really smart, they seem really sincere, so I'm very engaged, I'm very committed and connected to this energy, right? So that's why that. So bottom rung of the pyramid, intake visit, okay? You layer on top of that the next most important visit, which is the report of findings, done on separate days, in my opinion. Okay, done on separate days, unless there's an absolutely crisis reason to do a partial one before. Okay, layer on top of that, third rung of my fictional ladder. Using my hands. This is fun. Table talk, structured table talk. I don't give a rat's butt what else you talk to Mrs. Smith about on her 7th visit, or Mr. Jones on his 7th visit, or Mrs. Fluffnuff. But for heaven's sakes, have some structure to your table talk so that regardless of whatever else you talk to every practice member about on visits 3, 4, 5, 6, like all the way through the time until at least the first progress exam. And once you've mastered this, do it to the next progress exam and so on, is you're going to talk to them about X or Y, right? We've got an entire module on this, of course, in our program, which allows the entire structure of how to do this. A lot of docs take this for granted. They just anticipate, and then entropy sneaks in and end up talking about, sports or their golf game or the kids or something. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, connecting as human beings, but educate, make sure there's an educational component to it, right? All right, 4th rung on my fictional pyramid ladder here, the progress reports. People already were commenting on this in the chat, how important it is to do proper progress reports. All right. Intake, report of findings, structured table talk, structured progress reports, and the pinnacle of this, which in our coaching program is called an advanced level education process, is something that's commonly referred to as a healthcare class or a doctor's report. And I'll tell you, not only is that, you guys, in my practice, was it an absolutely critical part of the education protocol, but it was also absolutely fundamentally important for my marketing, because I would do healthcare classes with 3 people, and the biggest class we ever had was 26, 26 people in the reception area, of which there was 12 of those people that were guests. And that night, it was either 9 or 10, it might even have been 11, but whatever, it wasn't everybody, but it was almost everybody. We had, let's just round it out to call it 10 new practice members that night as a result of getting educated. So a crucial part of the education process, but watch the leverage, you guys. I have like a captive audience that's there with their significant other or their friend or their mother or whatever, right? And we have a very, very specific way to communicate that allowed me to have a very high 90% plus show up rate at our healthcare class versus a lot of docs that just seem to have troubles with that. So there is a way to communicate that properly. That'll be for another conversation. But again, imagine that, you guys, you have 10 new practice members. I mean, I didn't do that every week, but I would say really consistently, we had 3 to 6 new practice members every week from the healthcare class. Well, depending upon what your bliss sheet shows and how many new practice members you want, I mean, I built a practice on an education protocol. So anytime in business, real broad strokes, you guys, right? Anytime in business, you can double dip. You can use something for 2 purposes. It's incredible because it takes less energy and time to do that, which is why I could work a 25-hour work week and see the volume I did and make the revenue that I did in the day. Okay. So that is the pyramid of the process. I will say this, you guys, if I could draw, you would see a graph. There was a direct correlation. The amount of education that you do is directly proportional to the difference between a ghost patient that ghosts you and a diehard, right? So again, education, hopefully we've beat that horse to absolute submission tonight. And you guys get that if there's something you're going to focus on a lot, it's going to be education. Now, anybody have any questions at this particular juncture in time? Anybody have something that's coming up? Either throw it in the chat. Dode, if you could read it, because I have this extremely bright light in my eyes. If you could read out anything that comes in, Dodie, that would be absolutely fantastic. Anybody have any questions before we push on to the next piece of the puzzle here?
Dan and Robin, one of the best years I had been doing the ICPA modules. I was excited in bringing that to the patients. I would agree. Oftentimes when I go to seminars, that was I was at a seminar, I learned this, and just your excitement always was something that trickled through.
Yeah, 100%. 100% that's true.
Joe, not to sleep on the progress exams.
Yes, very wisely stated. Very wisely stated. Any other questions or comments in the chat, Dode?
That is it that I can see.
Okay, well then that is that is probably enough then for now. Well, let's go back, you guys, and we're going to bring this thing in for a bit of a landing. We're going to trust technology, but one more time, but not iPad technology, because that's just apparently cruel and unusual punishment. So we won't trust that tonight. By the way, just show me and wave your hand in the camera, you guys. Were you able to get or download the worksheets for tonight? Anybody able to do that by a wave of a hand? Yes, a few hands waving, Dode.
They don't have cameras on, and Jonathan has got a thumbs down.
Ah, well, okay. Well, you know what? We will be.
Nope. Dan and Robin, nope.
No, my goodness. You know what? You delegate things to your team, and sometimes it just does not work out. So that's something that we'll have to rectify. Trust me, you will get it when we send up a follow-up to this, you guys. So
that link, it said.
Got a 404. Okay. Well, you know what? I will show you. This is, Dodie, you can see the worksheet, I believe. Yes?
Yes.
So this is the worksheet you will see, you guys, right? And these are 5 of our top secret pieces to the intake vision, okay? Management by agreement, core values, which Jonathan was referring to earlier, a past history, quality of life, and your the last thing you say to people before they go out your door on your intake visit, right? Expectations of your chiropractor. So again, just from a time limitation, you guys, we really only have time to do one of these things tonight. So is there one, just in the chat, you guys, is there one of those 5 that you'd most like to see? Management by agreement, core values, past history, quality of life, or expectations of your chiropractor? First couple of people, fingers to the keyboard, are the ones that I will actually keen in on, and we'll go over that. Management by agreement. Very cool. Past history has a vote. Any other votes? Any other votes? Management by agreement, past history, going once, going twice, going 3 times. All right, you know what? I'm going to go with past history. And management by agreement is a very cool concept, but again, we'll save that for another day. or as a client, you certainly would have access to that. So here's the piece, you guys. Most chiropractic colleges that I've spoke at and talked to the presidents of and so on, say they have, mandates from the CCE and from the governing councils and stuff that they have to, really focus on the students learning how to diagnose and to treat, supposedly. So part of the diagnosis process is to ask history questions, which is, pretty transparent. I think everybody does that. However, what the focus and the tendency is for most people is to talk about the present history. What are the things that have interrupted your health status that's brought you to this state of ill health at this time, right? So when I was going to school, we had an acronym for this. It was called Dr. for Carol, where you'd ask people about the presenting complaint, and you'd ask about, duration, radiation, frequency, intensity, character, aggravating, relieving factors, associated, and lifestyle factors, right? I've heard that there's a few different variations on that, but basically what people do and do well is they talk about present history. I can tell you that I used to get so effing bored reading past present histories with people because I could friggin' near fill the thing out without even asking them a question. Because it's when you're focusing just on pain, you're not focusing on potential, you're not focusing on function, then I understand the value of a present history. And I want to go on record as not poo-pooing saying you shouldn't do it. Let's be clear. I'm on record, Dodie. It's going to hit record here, okay? What I am suggesting is that there's a tremendous value in also talking about their past history. Because I would offer in my practice and in every practice I've ever consulted in, 90 whatever percentage of the people that are coming in, it's not just the present history precipitating event that caused the problems. Now, there's exceptions. There's big impact car wrecks where people break bones and are, very subluxated. But if you look at your average person who come in, at least into my family wellness clinic and the ones that I've consulted in, I can tell you that by far and in large, they didn't just pick the freaking iPad up off the desk and then their back went out on them, whatever the hell that means. I always say to people, where the hell did it go? Where'd your back go? Did it go to Texas? What the hell does that even mean? It's the craziest thing in the world. And I used to course correct people all the time that said stupid shit like that in the practice. I encourage you to as well. Anyways, moral of the story was, what you realize is that's just the precipitating event, the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, right? So when you start looking for the traditional 3 T's of, look at Cellier's more recent research, the McGill famous university, right? Professor, we talked about the stress response, right? Eustress, distress. And you look at the 3 traditional T's, trauma, toxins, and thoughts, right? Biochemical, mental, emotional, and physical stress forces that are greater than the nervous system's ability to adapt, right? Asking people questions about the history on that is absolutely clinically valuable and unbelievably valuable at helping people understand the education process, right? So the dialogue may go, something like this, you guys, just to, on the spot role play a little bit, right? Bob, so help me understand this. I could see from your history, and by the way, if your forms aren't asking past history questions, you're already beat. Okay, so your forms and the design of your forms asking past history questions is a nice little piece of wisdom. All right. So by looking at that, I can see say, Bob, I can see here that you had a fairly traumatic birth, right? Is that your mom told you that? Oh yeah, doc, apparently I was a 10-pounder and I was stuck and they used forceps and vacuums and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh man, that sounds terrible. Based upon Taubman's research in the 60s, 88% of all children born into Western culture were subluxated at birth. So it certainly sounds like that's a possibility for you. Did your mom get your nervous system checked by a chiropractor at that point? No, doc. No, what the hell, baby? Get checked? Right? Okay, well, that's no problem, Bob. Bob, so I can see here that when you were 3, you rolled your trike off the front steps and smacked your head on the cement, eh? And he goes, oh, yeah, that was a bad one, doc. A good gash, needed some stitches at the emerge and stuff. And I said, oh, yeah, and did the doctor check your nerve system for subluxations, nerve interference? I don't know, doc. I say, oh, wow, that's too bad. It sounds like maybe that certainly would be more than enough impact to cause damage there for sure. And what was this? What happened when you were 9, Bob, and you fell out of a tree, broke your arm? Oh yeah, doc, geez, yeah, I missed baseball for a month and a half that June. It was a real piss off. So yeah, so that concussion of forces coming into your body, did you Did you go and see a chiropractor at the time to get your nerve system checked? It's like, no, doc, I didn't. I said, no, that's really too bad, Bob. And Bob, what's up with this, love of your life? You got dumped to your first year of university. That must have been emotionally demanding. Oh yeah, it broke my friggin' heart, doc. I was depressed. I was borderline suicidal. It was just a train wreck of a time. And I say, wow, did you get your nerve system checked? That's a lot of stress to try and interact with, Bob. Did you get your nerve system checked then by a chiropractor? No, doc, I didn't. Right. And what was this? What used to be a roadie for the Doobie Brothers and the Grateful Dead? Wow. That must have been a fun time. Oh yeah, doc, we did a lot of crazy shit, a lot of chemicals. Did you get your nerve system checked then for the stress those would be causing on it? No, doc. And by the way, doc, why do you keep asking me about, stress on my nerve system getting checked by a chiropractor? Gee, Bob, am I ever glad you asked? Wink, wink. Because research has shown that very rarely is the problem people come to see us with just this thing that you did where you've been sitting in your truck, driving your truck for several days and stuff. And then, your back tightened up and locked up on you, right? I would offer, Bob, from what I'm hearing is that the real root of this problem started in childhood. It started when you had nerve system interference at childhood and from your birth process, and then was aggravated by the fall off the trike when you were 3 and the fall out of the tree when you were 9. And then all the emotional stress of, the breakup and all the chemical stress of being a roadie for the Doobie Brothers and the Grateful Dead. And it's brought us to a state, Bob, where your nerve system has basically just like jangled. And all it took was some simple thing like taking a long truck drive to put you over the top. Now, I didn't know you back then and I didn't treat you back then. So I'm only speaking hypothetically here, but from experience and from my 30 plus years of clinical experience, Bob, I'm going to say this problem's got a lot deeper roots than you thought. And dialogue, off the cuff, spontaneous, gang, right? That level of understanding. Now, what have I just done? I just helped this person understand truthfully that this problem is probably as old as they are, right? Because uncorrected nervous system interference gets stored in the nerve system, right? It's stored until it is released. Simple teaching point here, you guys. If you teach a child and they help them understand cognitively that 1 + 1 is 2, it's a lot easier to layer 1 + 2 is 3 and 1 + 3 is 4. The nerve system learns things in cognitive summation. It learns things in layers, and it learns things in layers positively and it learns things in layers negatively. So if people are not getting their nerve systems checked when these different patterns of interference happens, maybe they're clear. Maybe miraculously they're clear. As like BJ said, sometimes you can hit them in the ass with a scoop shovel and knock them down a flight of steps and, they'll be clear. It's just not very reliable, right? But by helping them understand that, because if they think the problem started yesterday, then how long should it take for the problem to be fixed? A day. But if the problem's 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, it usually helps them understand that this is a process. Health is a process. Right? And by helping them understand that health and dishealth, unhealth, dis-ease is a process, that you can understand why many times in my practice, a longer treatment protocol was necessary to get them back to optimal state of well-being. So that is my soapbox share. Anybody get some insights out of that? Anybody find that valuable? I'm interested to know. Is that a good affirmation or a good awareness piece for you guys? Love to see any feedback in the chat while I hydrate a little bit. Dodie, I was on my soapbox, girl. That wasn't the pulpit. That was a soapbox. I was rocking it. Yes, it is a process. Health is a process. Here was another one of my favorite little ones, you guys, okay? Bob, do you know that right now the arteries to your heart could be partially closed? They could be 40% occluded in my heart or yours, and you have no way of knowing that? Wow, really, doc? So yeah, there's no mechanism in your body to tell you that. But I can tell you this, if those continue to close, you'll have symptoms. You'll be aware of it. And for 40% of North Americans, the first warning sign they have of occlusion of their arteries is they die. Hell of a warning sign, isn't it, Bob? Right? So Bob, here's the question. Do arteries go from wide open to closed in a day, in 3 days, or does it take time? I don't know, doc, but probably takes time. You're right. And so does the subluxation process in the way that we talked to you tonight. Okay. Definitely some folks saying it was helpful. I really appreciate that kind of feedback, you guys. All right. Well, listen, let's bring this baby in for a landing and wind this conversation up tonight and make sure that everybody is going to be able to take whatever nuggets they need to take from this, enhance your skill sets. Obviously, there was 4 other tidbits in there, you guys. And I gave an example in there that actually, you know what? I think it's worth going back and showing that example, Dodie. So let me just go back and screen share that little piece of the puzzle. And right at the very bottom of the worksheets, when you get them, you'll see that I've written this out at a score of 1 to 10 and of these 5 different parts and some action steps there. So when you get it, certainly on the past history side, write out some concrete action steps for you if that's not something you're currently doing. And I would offer this, that every increase in points in this education algorithm I've developed represents an equal increase in PVA. So in other words, if you increase your score by 10, just in terms of 1 to 10 scores in these 5 areas, you will get a subsequent increase in PVA. And what does that mean? Well, here's the formula. Volume equals, as we said earlier, new patients times PVA. So if you have 10 new patients per month times PVA of 10, in other words, on average, people come 10 times, which is the, sadly, in my opinion, the North American average, then you would be seeing about 100 patient visits per month. Okay. Now, if you increase your PVA by 10, but you still only have 10 new patients coming, then you have 10 times 20, and you have just doubled your volume, okay, without seeing any more new practice members. What does that equate to in dollars? Well, if your average fee per service is $50, just to use easy math, you guys, then 100 more patient visits is an extra $5,000 a month in revenue. I don't know about you, but that doesn't seem like a bad thing, right? It's a nice byproduct of you being able to share your greatness and your genius with the world. So let me apologize, you guys, as we bring this in for landing for the technology snafu. Despite testing things earlier, you know, technologies just can be fussy. So Tom, the coach, says, for those that are ready to take this to heart and realize that diehard patients aren't found, they're made, they're formed through education, which you never stop at, right? Number 1 is just commit. Just commit to increasing the quality and or quantity of your education. And I'll use Occam's razor, you know, the famous metaphysical construct that says, when faced with 2 choices, always take the easier path. Always find the easier one. That's where the truth is more likely found. So just commit, you guys, to never-ending education. And what I would also encourage is, I should actually hit this on a slideshow, shouldn't I, Dodie, right? Commit to that, you guys, and then enroll your team in the education protocol. If you're a masterful communicator and a masterful educator, and your team isn't being educated by you or by a specialized coaching team, if you're using our admin trainers, then you're missing the boat. You're missing a fantastic opportunity, you guys, to really be able to have your front desk tech CAs, whatever other members of the team that are interacting with your practice members at all, to help them continue the education protocol and education process as well. So this isn't just a doc thing, you guys. This is not. This is a team thing. And you definitely want to be communicating, educating, and mentoring your team on health-related conversations, and then create, as part of their outcomes assessments, what outcomes they need to achieve to be great at the role. You want to definitely be monitoring and managing that as well. Okay. So here's the question I have, you guys. I'd love to see the chat light up as we start to wind it together. How will this focus tonight, this conversation that diehard patients aren't found, they are made, how is this going to make life and business easier and more profitable? I would love, if somebody's in the quiet background wants to come off mute, that's great. If not, I would very happy to see some things in the chat. In other words, what's your biggest takeaway? How's this going to make life and business easier and more profitable? What is the outcome of our time together, you guys? Anybody that wants to come off mute and chat, I'm very open to that. If not, I would love to see the chat. Dodie, could you read some of these out for us?
Not being on the treadmill of new patients.
Yes, the infamous treadmill, the infamous revolving door, one in, one out. That is definitely going to make a big difference in life.
This will easily create a higher PVA with just a wee bit more of education.
Perfect. Love that. Then that has been a successful time spent. Love to see one more, you guys. Love to see one more bit of feedback in the chat.
Some
This is one of my favorite
positives that we are already doing, some gaps to work on and improve. That was from Mark.
Okay, good. Great. Good stuff. Good stuff. Great feedback, you guys. Thanks for that. That's why I do what I do. It's why Dodie does what she does, right? Our next magic show, you guys, Keys to Peak Performing Team Members, April 5th, 2022. As of this recording. So you'll certainly, if you're on any of our lists, you'll certainly be getting notified. And I'm sure if we were really high tech, though, we could put it in the chat probably, but I'm not there right now. So thanks you guys for choosing to be here, choosing to share some of your valuable time with us. Certainly love and appreciate being able to share my thoughts, ideas, and things that make a difference in your life, which will also make a difference in your practice. And again, let's be clear, right? One of the reasons that Full Circle exists is to help you get clear about who you are, who you're not, and what you want your business to look like so you can perform at your peak, right? And you're welcome. I'm seeing lots of thanks coming in the chats. I appreciate you guys saying that. And as a result of that, there's people's lives you're going to touch. We're going to be healthier and happier and function better and work more at their potential. Those kinds of humans make better parents. Those kind of humans make better friends. They make better athletes. They make better coworkers. They make better leaders, right? This is the big picture of Full Circle, you guys, is to help you help your community be the best version of self it can be. And as a result of that, my little time together tonight, influencing you, influences your practice, influences your community. And that's how we make a difference. All right, Dota, I'm going to hit the recording button here. I'm going to pause that thing and